everyone, Radio Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't already, please do so. Thumbs up the video, leave a comment below, and etc. Today, we are doing the 4th edition of what was once known as What I Watched. I have decided to change the name. This is my monthly movie vlog where I talk about all the movies I watched each month. And I've decided to change the name to Mike's Monthly Movies, Triple M, if you will. Mike's Monthly Movies is going to be the name moving forward, so I will update all that. Please go and check out the January, February, and March editions of this. This is obviously the April edition of this. Every month, I talk about every movie I watched in the month. It helps me keep accountable for myself with my movie watching habits. It makes me watch more movies, which is what I want to do. There are so many classic movies I've never seen, and just general movies I'm interested in but have never seen. So that is the conceit of this series. In April, I watched 14 movies, so I'm going to talk about them all over the next 20 minutes or so. Little snap reviews, 1 to 2 minutes on each movie. Of course, if you have any thoughts, leave a comment, and please recommend a movie below. If you recommend a movie, I will watch it for the next month. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is Mike's Monthly Movies, April 2021 edition. So the first movie I watched in April was this movie called Don't Breathe. I guess like a horror thriller kind of vibe about these 3 people who try to do a heist on some old man's house and try to steal a bunch of money that he has. However, upon entering the house, they realize that this man is blind and can't see them. So they think it's going to be a piece of cake. However, he may be blind, but he can hear them, which is where the title Don't Breathe comes in, because they all have to be really silent. This creates some really suspenseful and, thrilling moments in this movie. Like, you do get a sense of the danger they are in, and these, really tense moments where this blind guy is kind of walking towards them and they can see him and we can see him, the audience can see him, but he can't see them, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And it takes quite a dark turn towards the end where it gets into some pretty uncomfortable subject matter that I didn't really like too much, but overall this was a pretty interesting movie. I would absolutely like to watch it again, and I thought it was pretty good. Next up is an absolute classic movie that I had just never seen before. I kind of put this one in a similar category to Jurassic Park, which I watched back in March. This movie, Alien, I didn't love. I've heard great things about Alien and the sequel Alien, so I thought it was about time I finally sat down to watch it. I mean, it's good as a sci-fi horror kind of film, and I enjoyed those aspects of it, but I guess I just felt like it was pretty slow. Like, it was a long movie, everything felt like it was moving at a snail's pace, and maybe at the time that this movie came out, it may have worked a lot better because people weren't used to really fast-paced content. I'm not really sure. I certainly didn't hate it. Sigourney Weaver's performance is incredible. Some of the twists are great. There are some really scary moments where the alien is like hiding and appears out of nowhere, and I enjoyed that. And just the general creepiness and the creepy vibe of the alien itself is really scary. So I enjoyed that a lot. I did watch a movie on Netflix a few years ago called Life, which came out in probably 2019 or 2020. And it had an incredibly similar kind of story to Alien, so I'm sure that was highly derivative of Alien, but I liked that too. But yeah, Alien, overall it was fine. I'm keen to watch Alien soon as well, but let's get on to the next movie. Following a trend of weird horror thriller kind of movies, I watched this movie called Ma. This one was really weird. Basically, the story of this movie is that a bunch of kids ask a middle-aged or 40-year-old woman to buy alcohol for them, and she does it, and she invites them back to her home to party in her garage area. And it's really weird. This old 40-year-old woman is luring all these children to her house, and by the end it turns out she grew up in this town and was friends with all of these children's parents, and a lot of creepy territory from there. There's some pretty good performances in this. It's a really eerie film, a really strange kind of vibes around this woman and what she's doing. But overall, I didn't think it was great, a 3 out of 5 stars, I suppose. There is some incredibly gory stuff that happens towards the end and some real like torture porn kind of vibes, and I didn't particularly enjoy that because I don't like that kind of stuff. Well, it does, it kind of catches me in, but I'm like so like scared of it. So Ma, overall, an okay film, nothing too amazing, but it was fine. Okay, so the next three films are kind of linked, but I will start with this one, which is Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. Oh boy, this movie is so bad. And like, often when I hear about bad movies or like notoriously bad movies, I always go in pretty open-minded because I'm like, it can't really be that bad. Like, it must be okay, but no, this movie absolutely sucks. Not only is there like this long 20-minute kind of prelude to the main movie in which we learn about the Green Lantern's childhood and how his father died in a plane explosion, we then, in the next 15 minutes, get the adult Green Lantern having flashbacks to that moment in the film, which we, the audience, just spent 20 minutes with. But it has to be pointed out so clear that he's having flashbacks to these moments. That was so annoying. It's a shame because the Green Lantern's superpowers are actually really cool and really, I don't know, like, I like the idea that they have these rings that can, you know, make imagination come to life, and that is used a little bit in this film, and it's very cool, but overall, I feel like this was a film with tons of potential that just didn't live up to it at all. I barely remember anything about it, to be honest. I just remember being quite bored and not enough superheroing going on. Just a lot of talking and blabbing and Green Lantern figuring out what the Green Lantern stuff is. Like, I think they could have done away with most of the backstory and just kind of alluded to that throughout the film without having to have that 20-minute setup of him as a kid. Get him into the Green Lantern stuff much quicker and maybe focus on him learning how to use the powers with other Green Lanterns and stuff. I don't know, I was really disappointed in this film. It was very bad. Ryan Reynolds, why did you make this film? Maybe we will never know. Let's do the next one. Everyone was talking about it, so of course we had to watch it. My housemates and I did sit down for 4 hours on a Saturday and watch this movie. And like, this was really fun. I have seen the old Justice League. I didn't really remember much of it, so this is kind of just the one I'm going by now. The thing about the DC universe was that they rushed it to the Justice League. Like, at least Avengers had that huge run-up from Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, and Thor, then doing the Avengers. Whereas the DC universe pretty much just had Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and then Justice League, where we meet all of the Justice League essentially without ever having met them in other movies, and I think that was the downfall. I guess Snyder's Justice League does a pretty good job of making these characters' introductions feel much more elaborate and descriptive and getting to know them a lot more, like the Flash, Wonder Woman, and of course like Cyborg and stuff. But overall, like, I didn't feel like this was amazing. It was definitely better than the original, which I think most people are saying, but it definitely wasn't groundbreaking in any way. I also love the fact that Zack Snyder is kind of like, this is the movie I would have made, like, this is what I would have done. And it's like, well, no, you wouldn't have, because you wouldn't have been able to make a 4-hour movie with a theatrical release. Like, this wouldn't have been the movie you made at all, because you would have had to have made like a 2.5-hour movie. So 90 minutes of this, you wouldn't have been able to include. So I don't like people being like, see, that's what it should have been, because this is not what it would have been if Zack Snyder never left, right? It never would have been this. It would have been something else that was 90 minutes shorter than that. That's just my thoughts. Let's do the next one. Justice League Dark, Apokolips War is the next film. This is an animated Justice League movie, and I guess, like, the thing is, I really like superheroes. I like the characters, and I saw this movie and I was like, oh, I might as well just watch it and see if it's any good. And this was really good. Like, I really, really enjoyed this one. And then I found out that this film was the 15th installment of like a DC animated universe, which I thought was really interesting, and now I kind of want to watch all of them. But the way a lot of the characters were characterized and written and performed was great. The battle scenes were great, and I guess with a cartoon, there's more suspension of disbelief. Like, you can kind of let a lot more go than if it was just a live action film where you kind of do have to play it seriously a bit more. This was a lot of fun and the animation was great, the storytelling was great. I would love to watch a few more of these, but not a huge amount more to say than that. Trying to make the most out of my Disney Plus subscription, I watched The Muppets from 2011 with Jason Segel, and I absolutely loved this movie. I would probably say that of all the movies I watched this month, I think this one was my favorite new one. I've talked a little bit about this on my podcast 20th Century Boy, which you can watch on this channel or download wherever you get your podcasts. I talk about pop culture and a lot of other stuff. It's really fun. But I had never seen anything Muppets related in my life, so I guess I was kind of just interested and wanted to see what this movie was all about. And I was so pleasantly surprised. On a similar note, I remember last year I watched the Peanuts movie, like the Charlie Brown and Snoopy animated movie, and I didn't really like it very much. So I kind of thought the Muppets being a similar franchise in terms of like an old franchise being revived would be equally as bad. But this movie was so good, so well written, well performed, incredible songs and performances. Like, the Man or Muppet song is amazing. Am I a man or am I a Muppet? And of course this movie has ignited my love of the song Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog, which is amazing. Man, I just loved the Muppets and everything about their comedic style from this movie. And I guess that's why the next movie I watched was... I went back to the start. This is the Muppets movie from 1979, which essentially is a prequel to The Muppets. It shows how Kermit the Frog met all the Muppets, including Miss Piggy and a lot of the other big ones. And again, some really great songs. Not as good as the more modern one. I personally thought, I'm sure like Muppets fans would probably disagree with that. But yeah, I enjoyed this one as much. A lot of really good songs, including Movin' Right Along, which has still been stuck in my head since I watched it. Moving right along. And I also appreciated this great reference to Sesame Street when Kermit bumps into Big Bird on his way to California.
Hey there, want a lift?
Oh, no thanks. I'm on my way to New York City to try to break into public television.
The Muppets are really cool. I want to watch all of the Muppets movies and then review them on this channel. That's something I might do next. Okay, Sherpa was a huge change of pace. It's a documentary, and I think maybe the only documentary I've watched this year. As well as that, it's also by an Australian director, and I do like to check out Australian films, being Australian myself. Essentially, it is about Mount Everest, but not from the angle you might think. It's basically about the politicization of the mountain and also the racism that it can propagate through Westerners wanting to climb it and being led by these mountain guides called Sherpas, who are locals who don't get paid very much at all to climb the world's biggest mountain that many people die on. Essentially, a lot of Sherpas died in an ice slide and they went on strike, and you really see these like huge debates going on around whether Westerners should continue to climb the mountain, and all these really weird discussions from Westerners who refer to the Sherpas having owners and stuff. It was quite uncomfortable at points, and yeah, this was a really good watch. Probably the only rewatch I did this month, it is Brother Bear, the most underrated Disney film of all time. I actually did a full video on why I think Brother Bear is one of the most underrated Disney films of all time, so go and check that out on my channel. Please check out some of my other videos, they're all there. You can click on my name and they'll come up. Brother Bear is so good. I watched it with my girlfriend and she was literally in tears the entire time. It is so sad at points. It is so well performed, the animation is gorgeous, the story is so heart-wrenching and great. There are so many life lessons to learn with this film. Again, watch that full video for more information on this one and more of my thoughts, but man, I'm so glad I rewatched Brother Bear. Another Australian film next up, and this one is actually probably up there with The Muppets with one of my favourites of the month. It's called Lake Mungo. You might not have heard of it, but if you were into horror movies at all, I highly recommend you watch this movie. This was undoubtedly, I repeat, undoubtedly, the most, what is the word I'm looking for? Yeah, that's right. The most disturbing horror film I have ever seen. It is presented in a documentary style. For actually the first 15 to 20 minutes, I wasn't sure if it was a real story or not. It is beyond me. The craft behind this, the realism behind it, the authenticity behind it is just unbelievable. And it is so disturbing and so scary, the subject matter of this movie and what happens and how you find stuff out during the movie. A little dip in the middle of the film, but it does come back, so stick with it. It's not too long, but yeah, this creeped me out so much and gave me nightmares. So if that's what you want from a horror film, watch Lake Mungo. You will not be disappointed. Coming up to the last 3 films now, and the next film I watched was Hotel Transylvania. Why did I watch this film? I don't know. It came up. Sometimes movies just come up and you click on them and you watch them. So what did I think of this? I actually thought this was a pretty fun kids movie. Like, I didn't think it was very bad. I didn't think it was amazing. It was, I guess, funny at points. Like, Adam Sandler's certainly got his troupe back together for this animated film. Like, David Spade is one of the voice actors in this, and he's always in all of Adam Sandler's stuff. And yeah, was it amazing? No, it definitely doesn't hold up with like any of the best Pixar or Disney stuff at all. But this wasn't a bad film by any means. Like, I was pleasantly surprised and kind of enjoyed this, and I think kids would really like it. But I definitely don't plan on watching any of the sequels, which I believe there are 3. Like, I saw a poster for Hotel Transylvania 4. God, that's going down the Ice Age route. How many Ice Ages are there now? Like 100? Ice Age 100 people digging up the fossils of the characters. That's the name of the movie. Next! Who Framed Roger Rabbit? A movie that I feel like I saw as a kid and didn't get at all, but watching it as an adult really cleared a lot up for me. I think this is an interesting movie. Like, there's a lot going on here. There are some funny moments. It's certainly a product of its time in a lot of ways. Roger Rabbit is a great character, but the thing that I distinctly remember, which I guess is proof that I had seen this film as a kid, like that scene of Bugs, Mickey Mouse, and the main character flying through the sky and Bugs and Mickey having the parachutes. That is something that is burned into my memory.
Me, what's up, Doc? Jumping without a parachute? Kinda dangerous, ain't it?
Yeah, you could get killed, huh?
I feel like when I was a kid, I just had, I saw that, and then for the rest of my life, I couldn't quite figure out when it happened or if it happened because it was such a weird thing to see. But yeah, I do like all the cartoon characters coming together from Disney and Warner Brothers and like the Looney Tunes and everything like that. That was cool. The story's fun. This is a great little, you know, fun movie. I guess a kid's movie, but I don't know if I'd enjoy it that much if I was a kid. It was fine. It certainly didn't blow me out of the park, but I enjoyed this movie for what it was. Finally, on the last day of April, I watched Pet Sematary, the most recent Pet Sematary film, not the old one. I'm a little skeptical on Stephen King, both in books and movies. Like, The Shining is a great movie, It was a great movie, but then the sequel to It I didn't really like. Carrie was an average movie and an average book. Like, I think Stephen's a bit hit and miss. No offense, Stephen, I'm sure you're pretty cool. For example, and I just pulled this out, like I have the It book, and look how big this book is. Like, who has time to read this book, let alone write it? But anyway, I actually quite liked Pet Sematary. It was fun. It was creepy, a lot of sort of creepy imagery and creepy ideas. I feel like the movie couldn't touch on some of the subject matter that I'm assuming the book touched on. So now I kind of want to read the book, but I just hope it isn't as long as this bad boy. Pet Sematary was pretty good. Up there for the month in terms of movies I watched, but definitely not like the best movie I've ever seen which I guess none of these movies were, because the best movie I've ever seen is The Emperor's New Groove.
Right.
Thanks for watching Mike's Monthly Movies April 2021 edition. I'm loving making these. I hope you're enjoying watching them. Comment below a movie you think I should like or any thoughts on some of the movies that I watched and talked about in this video. Go and check out some of my other videos, some of which are on screen now. I do all kinds of TV and film stuff as well as video games if you're into that too. I'm Australia's most lovable nerd and I do all kinds of nerd content. So please go and check out my channel, share some vids with a friend and enjoy them all. You can also check out my podcasts and yeah, it's all there on my channel, so really just go there. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next vid. My name's Radio Mike. See you later.
But I went to run my hand through your hair and I noticed you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time, you were attached to string.